Soulful shit, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's some soulful shit for everyone, you know what I'm saying? Like, I made this be myself, so hear me. I mean, like, we can put all that clown shit away. There's some real shit for you. I'm spazzing right now, so listen, let's go. Yeah, it's in their bones, the thoughts and harmony for the love of the money. Then fall victim for the cookie, then turn pussy, it's lonely. You said you hold it down when life get rough, we're here now, so show me. We move them losses to them wins. Heavy pounds, we make it ends meet. Converse with only few who make me feel like I be 10 feet.
Yes, what's going on, Pete's, man? We are back in the damn building. Guys, as always, man, make sure you are smashing the like button, sharing, and subscribing to the damn channel. Obviously, we are back here looking at the midfield now. Obviously, we've done the defense. I think we took a look at the left backs. I think we took a look at the winger options. We've spoken about strikers quite a lot in various different streams, various different videos and stuff like that. So make sure you guys obviously check out those videos. But as I said, today we're going to be looking at the midfield. So whether it's defensive midfield, central midfield, or attacking midfield, I've just kind of grouped them all into one. Now, obviously, when we're looking at Liverpool's midfield, listen, I've said it before, I say it again, I don't think the midfield is that good. I do think it's quite overrated. I think it's a good midfield. Like, I think it's a very calm midfield. Like, I wouldn't, you know, it's not the worst midfield, of course, that, you know, that's an over-exaggeration. But when people claim it's the best, I think that is very far from the truth. I don't think it's the best midfield in the Premier League. I think there are a couple of midfields I would prefer to have, and I think are actually better than the Liverpool midfield. As individuals, I think, again, they are good individuals. Like, these are good players at the end of the day, and I'm not going to sit here and lie to everybody and say, oh, yeah, these lot of shit. Nah, it's not really a case, you know, like that, to be honest with you. McAllister, Gravenberch, 𝐒𝐔𝐳, Curtis Jones, Endo, Elliott, they've got Trey and Yoni in there as well, if you want to add him, you know, as a young player. But, you know, taking him out, you know, those 6 players, you know, that I've just mentioned, again, they're good players, man. They're good players. And I think in the right system, in the right kind of setup, I feel like, yeah, no, these guys can probably do, you know, a decent job, you know, for, you know, the Liverpool midfield. But we know, watching the team, and I think that's so important. Like, if you don't watch the team at times, you know, you would just look at it on a results basis and think, yeah, you know what, Liverpool, great, like everyone must be great. But of course, and on top of that, you know, we're hopefully, jinx, you know what I mean, that we don't, you know, mess things up. But we're looking like we're going to go on to, you know, win the Premier League and, you know, all of this kind of stuff. But listen, in the summer when Arne Slot came in, one of the players that he did, of course, look at, you know, was a Zubimendi. And, you know, that was the kind of profile of individual that, you know, Liverpool were kind of looking at, you know, in terms of that type of player. You know, for me, when I look at someone like Zubimendi, I feel like he can do various different things. And I'm not saying he's the world-class ultimate midfielder. I don't think he's at that kind of level yet. I think he's a top-class midfielder for what he does. But in terms of like world-class, that's very few and far between, and they're all unattainable in my opinion. But that type of midfielder, I feel like that's what Liverpool were kind of looking for. Someone who is very good under pressure, someone who can take the ball off the centre backs and drive with the ball up the field, someone who can, you know, keep possession when we need to keep possession, and someone who isn't afraid in those danger areas. So when I say danger areas, I don't necessarily mean up forward. I do mean, you know, further back. You know, when he is in that DM position, he doesn't look like someone who is afraid of taking the ball off the centre backs, again, under pressure, you know, popping it off, or someone who wants to receive the ball, again, you know, always showing as an option for the team. I don't feel like he's someone who I look at and think, oh my God, you can't have someone like him. Or like how I look at the Liverpool midfield, I'm always like, yeah, a bit worried when any one of our midfielders kind of have the ball close to goal, because you're like, I don't really know how this is going to work out. And, you know, as soon as they get, you know, pressed and things like that, it starts to go, you know, everywhere. So yeah, that's the kind of way that I kind of look at it when I'm talking about like the Liverpool, you know, midfield and the kind of midfield. And again, I can only base this off of purely the fact that we actually went in for him and he just didn't want to come, which is, you know, it is what it is, right? So, you know, that's the type of, you know, player that I think, you know, I feel that Liverpool probably should continue to try and look for. Whether you go back in for Zubimendi, I don't know. I really don't know what that looks like, you know, come the summer. Obviously, when you're looking at, Liverpool's midfield three, so this is the kind of midfield three that we've gone with, of course, for the majority of the season. Again, for me, it doesn't really provide enough balance in this kind of midfield. I feel like as individuals, if you put them into different teams individually, I think that they work with different type of midfielders alongside them. I think individually these three do definitely work. I know everyone complains about Szoboszlai and all this kind of stuff, but I believe if he was at a Newcastle or something like that, maybe in place of I don't know, Joel Linton as an example, I feel like that'd be perfect, potentially, for them, even though I do think that that midfield is obviously really, really, really good and really balanced. Again, McAllister, again, you put him into another midfield, like a Man City midfield, I think it works there. Gravenberch, again, if you put him into another team, maybe even like an Arsenal as an example, almost like that kind of Partey, type of role, again, alongside a Declan Rice, alongside a Martin Odegaard, I feel like that works. But these three for Liverpool, I do not think it works like that. I think it works in parts because of, in my opinion, more because of their individual characteristics, their attributes and stuff like that. Yes, when I look at it in that way, yeah, it works. You know what I mean? That they all can do things pretty well. And if it combines once, and if it does combine once in a blue moon, it looks really good on the eye. One of the things that a lot of people spoke about, at the early part of the season was, oh, Liverpool's midfield, looks really good. You're popping the ball about, the yada yada, all of that kind of stuff, which is great. I didn't think so, but everyone was telling me, yeah, look, it looks really good, blah, blah, blah. But for me, I just always thought, yeah, of course. Yeah, individuals, yeah, they look great. But I mean, as a team, I don't feel like it looks good as a unit. As the season has gone on, they've just gotten progressively worse and worse and worse as a unit. Not maybe necessarily as players, still think they're the same level of player. It's just as a unit, I don't really feel, that it works personally, for me. One of the other players that, of course, everyone always talks about, Harvey Elliott, why doesn't he play? When he comes on, he does this. Now, that kind of statement, whenever I hear that anyway, oh, when he comes on, for me, I'm always like, well, yeah, duh. Do you know what I mean? Of course, when he comes on, he's coming on when Liverpool need a goal, when we need to make things happen. And then that works for a Harvey Elliott. In this system under Arne's Slot, it works. When you've got a fresh player, someone, again, who's a good player, sitting on the bench, when they come on, of course, he's coming on in a completely different game state. He isn't coming on, or he isn't starting games where you're like, okay, we've set out like this, and you've got to try and figure it out if the opposition changed the way that they've played, or they're doing things a little bit more differently than what we thought. So can you work that kind of stuff out? He's coming on where there is no tactics come the end of the game when we need a goal. There really isn't. I've seen Van Dijk sitting up front. So that tells you there is no tactics. It's more about get everybody forward. You do what you can do on the ball. And when he does have the opportunity to do so, Harvey Elliott has shown and proven that he can obviously do that. Now, try and do that at the beginning of the game, I don't really think that that works for me personally. I don't think he's good enough for me to be starting in a midfield for Liverpool Football Club. Go somewhere else, I think, yeah, he could probably start. Again, go to a different team. It might look good. It might work in terms of what he can bring to the team. But if you're talking about starting for Liverpool, for me, I'm like, nah, I never want to. Well, right now, I don't want to see that. Maybe if he improves as a player in the future, great. Listen, of course, let him do that. But right now, nah, he's not. He's really not the guy, in my personal opinion. And again, I implore people to watch when he comes on in games. Just look at the point of the game that he comes on in. Now, you try and see, are Liverpool playing that way at the beginning of games? They are not. So, of course, different kind of game states. So it's going to work, in that kind of fashion. Again, another player that bare people always talk about is obviously 𝐒𝐇𝐀. Obviously, we know he's out on loan at Las Palmas. Failed loan move, to RB Salzburg, which kind of surprising if I'm being totally honest with you. Obviously, he's at Las Palmas. Apparently, he's doing really, really well. Have not really seen him. I think I've seen him like a couple of highlights here and there. So I'm not going to judge him on his time there. But from what people are telling me, they're saying he's playing really, really well and, all of this kind of stuff. But in terms of 𝐒𝐇𝐀 anyway, again, he's one of those guys. Obviously, he's young, in it. So, and I don't really see that crazy potential that people talk about. I think he's one of those kind of players that I think he needs a lot of game time throughout these next few years to really develop into whatever type of player, he's going to be. Obviously, he can play in that DM position. He can play central, midfield as well. He can play centre back. So maybe that might provide an option. With him, I'm more like, again, he's not someone I want starting for my team, but maybe as an option. But will that work for him? we always talk about, I talk about this when I do the tactical analysis and stuff like that. When we talk about players and young players, everyone's always like, yeah, but he should, if the players are not playing, they're not going to develop. It's not happening. Like it just doesn't happen. No player develops sitting on the bench. You have to play. So when you're talking about, yeah, but he's going to come on in these games and he's going to play cup games. When I hear people say, yeah, but he can play cup games, I'm like, do you know any player that just plays cup games and all of a sudden just turned into this beast? Like, I rarely see those kind of things. Like maybe there is. Like, I'm not saying that there's not one player ever, but when I think about it, I'm like, I don't really feel like I see players who just play cup games and then that's it. Maybe if there's a situation of you've got a really, really old player in that position, whatever position that might be, and then you've got the young player who you want to take over from that guy. And so then he's going to play cup games coming off the bench and stuff. But when you look at Liverpool's midfield, it's not old. Do you know what I mean? Like, this Liverpool midfield ain't old. Like, they got years left in the game. Let's just say they spend the majority of that at Liverpool, but they got years here. Do you get what I'm trying to say? So in my head, I'm always like, where do people think 𝐒𝐻𝐃 gets to play games? Like, that's the bit that always confuses me. Like, where do you think he's going to start playing games? But listen, man, listen, I guess if you want whatever you want, then, you know, it is what it is. I'm not here to, you know, to really downplay all of that. Like, if you feel like 𝐒𝐻𝐃 is a good enough player to play in this Liverpool midfield, then fairs. I don't think that represents a good midfield. I just think that, yeah, it's one of those, isn't it? Like, he needs to play games in order to develop. No young player is just going to just develop like, okay, I'm going to sit on the bench every single week and just somehow miraculously just get better. I don't know how that works for people, but listen, I'm not really here to really split hairs about, you know, all of that kind of stuff. Now, one of the things obviously that I look at as well is one of the main things that I always talk about is obviously the way that in which Arne Slot wants his teams to actually play, right? In terms of how does he want his style of play to actually be for his midfield. Now, we obviously saw in the early part of the season quite a lot of that people were talking about is, you know, Liverpool pressing this 4-2-4 press and, you know, yada, yada, yada. Then it didn't work for like a couple of games. Everyone was like, why do we press in 4-2? Like, it was funny. It literally shifted in literally like a 2-game week. Like, 1 week it was fine. Oh, 4-2-4, it's amazing. Look, you've got McAllister, Gravenberch. Hence why everyone always does, when they do their lineups, I always say to people, why do we do 4-2-3-1 when we don't actually play 4-2-3-1? But I guess it's because of this 4-2-4 kind of press. And again, that could be dotted up into 4-2-4, 4-4-2, 4-2-3-1. It really doesn't matter. It's all the same kind of thing anyway. But everyone always spoke about this in terms of the way that Liverpool obviously line up. And again, this for me, this shot right here, again, is why at the beginning of the season, it was kind of working. This for me is Liverpool's best game of the entire season. I've not seen a better game from Liverpool than the game when we played against Manchester United away and we won, was it 3-0? That for me was what I called complete football. From minute 1 to 90, it was complete. Yes, there's bits in the game which I totally expect because no game is ever going to be flawless unless you're Barcelona in the you know, late 2000s and you know, early 2010s. But in terms of in the real world, this was one of the most complete performances I have seen from Liverpool. I praise Liverpool so much because this is what I thought Liverpool were going to be moving forward with Arne Slot. I said, if Liverpool did this, I said, yo, okay, 100, yo, this is sick. This is what I call football for me personally. This is my type of football. We have not played that since then. In my opinion, we ain't even been close. I'll be so honest with you. But again, I've said this on multiple occasions. And again, it's just in terms of the way that we kind of press. Look, even here you can see, look, in terms of, look at Ryan Gravenberch. He's the lone 6 in this option. Both Szoboszlai and McAllister are further forward in this kind of option. So again, this was working for Liverpool. Over the season, I just think that once teams started to kind of, again, we saw against PSG, once teams started to, you know, press us man for man, because they started to realize, okay, Liverpool's midfield, when you give them time and space, again, you're talking about 3 individual players who are of good level. If you give anybody in the Premier League time and space, of course they're going to hurt you. And then you've got a forward line with Mo Salah. Bro, come on. Do you know what I mean? Like, of course it's going to work. What we started to then see is Nottingham Forest kind of laid the blueprint anyway. Teams just weren't really trying to follow it. Fulham also kind of looked at it when we drew against them at Anfield, I think, when we went down to 10 men. Again, soon as you press Liverpool and you man-to-man them, Liverpool don't have the options because the midfield 3 technically are for me, technically, when I look at that Liverpool front midfield three, they are. I'll be kind and say maybe like a mid-table level type of team in terms of technically on the ball. They're for me, they are of that kind of level. And then once that starts to happen, of course it's going to be sticky for Liverpool. Of course it's going to be. Do you get, because you're not of the kind of technical level that's needed in order for you to play high level football and stuff like that. Yeah, you're good maybe against like a Crystal Palace or something. Do you know what I mean? Then yeah, maybe it might work. But when we start to come up against opposition who, when we look at Fabian Ruiz, Neves, Vitinha here, look at technical players. They are of a different level to the Liverpool midfield three in terms of technical ability. So when they have possession of the ball and it's off the ball movement, which Liverpool midfield three do not do enough, you start to see what we saw against PSG. Yes, we won 1-0. Oh, that was great. Yeah, we got. I hear that. Liverpool got absolutely embarrassed. They got it. That was a footballing lesson in that game. I haven't seen a footballing lesson like that since I can't even remember. Probably a Manchester City game, probably one of those type of games. But this was a proper footballing level at the highest level, that I've seen in a very, very long time. Liverpool absolutely bopped off the park, and it was that midfield three, of course, with Dembele, Kvaratskhelia, and Barcola also helping. But that midfield three literally embarrassed our midfield three. And this is what I'm talking about. And then it started to lay a bit of a blueprint from what you're then seeing again against a Nottingham Forest, against a Fulham, against an Everton, against a Newcastle, against an Arsenal. When you man-to-man Liverpool, when you press them aggressively, it starts to look a bit sticky. You start to see it in games. If Liverpool don't have the runners, and this is where you're then, obviously this is the other part of the team, and I'm not going to focus too much on that, but when you don't have the cleverness of if Gakpo's not being clever, if Salah's, just chilling out there on the right wing, I don't even know who's playing up front. Diaz is dropping deep, so now you got no strike. Once all these kind of things are not really in tandem, yeah, the midfield at times I do feel sorry for them, because I'm like, well, they don't really have the options to really do too much, and when you don't have the options up front, and then you're now expected to play football and you can't at that kind of level, that's when you start to see it a lot more. And again, I implore people to just go and watch that when we watch Liverpool Football Club. And again, I'm showing all the Nottingham Forest, kind of photos, because that was, again, this is how you play against the Liverpool side. You can get balls, long balls, direct football. We saw it against Everton, direct football into, the front man, like a Chris Wood and Isak, those type of players. Once you get a Mateta, get the ball into there, potentially, get you're not even trying to win that. Obviously, if you can win the first header, great, because then you can, of course, you move on from there. But I always feel like teams, when they go direct like that, it's not even about the first header, it's the second ball. And it's that second ball, once the other team are set up in a way to play that second ball. So maybe you've got a Gibbs White and a Langya, Hudson-Odoi, these kind of players who start to drop into their positions. Liverpool's midfield three, again, they just look like they're in no man's land. Guess what then happens? Gaps. Look, this is prime example. The ball got played into the midfield. You've got 𝐾, who's just decided he's going to jump into the midfield to help them for whatever reason. Look who's behind 𝐾. 𝐾 is our centre back. And look who's behind him. You got fucking Alanga and Chris Wood. And you've got our midfield three doing God knows what, and doing it just looks all over the gap. No one's aware. No one seems to know where anybody is. There you go. You know what I'm trying to say? And it's that type of football. And again, I would be more lenient if I looked at Liverpool's football, or if I just looked at the midfield and said, you know what, we're coming up against a PSG every single week. Like if he was coming up against that every single week, bro, I understand. Like, I wouldn't even be mad. I'll be like, obviously you'd be annoyed, but then you'll just be like, I get it, because we don't have that level of quality in terms of the technical ability anyway. But we're not even coming up against that. But I'm talking about you facing Everton. As soon as they go direct, Liverpool's midfield is just, that's it. They just go on walkabouts. Against Newcastle, the same thing. Do you get what I'm trying to say? Even against a Newcastle, when I watch them, I'm just like, Newcastle are very, this is what I call, this midfield three is better than Liverpool midfield three. Balance. That is what they provide. You've got the technical ability of a Tonali, of a Bruno Guimaraes, and then you've got the energy that you need in a team, in a midfield, especially in the Premier League, in a Joe Linton. But also, Gomes and Tonali both provide that energy anyway, just maybe not to the levels of a Joel Linton, who's the bully kind of in the midfield, but they still provide that. But they're all technically very, very good players. They're very physical players as well. So when I watch then Liverpool, I'm like, well, we're not physical at all in the slightest. So let's take away physicality. So any team, Plymouth, who come up against a Liverpool who's just physical, yeah, I know we're already losing that side of the battle. Okay, no worries. Are we technically better as a free than the other midfield service against a Newcastle? Well, no, not really. I think technically they're even still better than the Liverpool midfield free. What they are though, in terms of Liverpool's midfield free, is that when they can do what they're really good at, i.e., give McAllister time, he can pick out a pass. Of course, he can. Give Gravenberch the swivel, he can do that all day long. We saw it how many times at the beginning part of the season when he's able to open up his body and then he's able to go. I don't know what else Gravenberch is actually really good at other than running with the ball if he's got the space to do so. Other than that, I really don't even know what else he's actually realistically good at, and that for me is always going to be a problem. Excuse me. Yeah, sorry about that. I don't know, in terms of like what else as a unit is that Liverpool midfield free, necessarily good at. And listen, man, like I say, it's just one of those. It's just one of those kind of things, man. Honestly, it's generally just one of those kind of things. But listen, look, when we're talking about like midfielders who can potentially come in, to that, Liverpool team, obviously one of those players and that everyone talks about is obviously Carlos Baleba at Brighton. I think he's a really, really good young player. Do I think he can come in and improve? Yeah, I feel like I don't feel like it's going to be too hard to improve the Liverpool midfield. So yeah, I feel like a player like him, very good midfielder, box to box. Can play DM if I need him to, but I've seen him, get forward quite a lot. He's a very, very good option. Adam Wharton, I feel like again technically he is very, very, very good on the ball. If that's again, I don't know what Arne Slot is looking for, but I'm just trying to guess here with the players. But again, if you want an Adam Wharton, type of midfielder, I feel like he'd be a very, very, good option. Morgan Rogers, if you're looking for someone, if you just want someone in the mold of a Szoboszlai as an example, then a Morgan Rogers, for Aston Villa, I think he'd be a very, very good option, as well as a Morgan Gibbs White. I feel like those two are in the type of mold that we look at Szoboszlai in, which is I don't look at them as primary number 10s. And I think that that's what gets people so mad is that we look at Szoboszlai like he's an actual number 10, i.e., you're playing off the front man and that's all you do. Whereas we know that for Liverpool, they ain't doing that. That's why I don't even look at him as a number 10. He's not that type of play. Like, he's not playing that way anyway. Did you get what I'm trying to say? The guy is doing shifts at right midfield. You know what I mean? Like that's not a number 10. Do you know what I'm trying to say? Like number 10 is what we see from the likes of like a Florian Wirtz or like those type of individual. And again, it's not even Isco at Real Betis. Like those type of players who they float in space. There's not too much defensive responsibility placed upon them because they don't need that. We've got the rest of the team behind us in order for us to do that. So if you're looking for that type of number 10, then yes, I've got no problems with getting those, whoever that might be, by the way. You can go and get those type of players. But if you're still looking for a player in the mold of, say, a Szoboszlai, then I feel like a Morgan Gibbs White, I feel like I definitely didn't think he could. I definitely didn't look at him as a player that I would want to sign, but in these last 2 seasons, he's definitely proven, me wrong. And then you've obviously got like a Morgan Rogers kind of player as well. So those are the 2 type of players that I would potentially be looking at. If there's other Prem players, please let me know, of course, in the comment section. Then you've got players like Xavi Simons. Obviously, again, this brother can play bare positions, left wing, right wing, up front, attacking midfield. Again, versatility. That might be something that we might potentially be looking at. Then obviously you've got Rayan Cherki, someone who can play, off that he can play really off the left, off the right, through the middle if you needed him to. So again, is that the type of number 10 that you're kind of looking for? He's more in the mold of a Xavi Simons. And again, in terms of those players, take away the defensive responsibility, they will be able to cook. If you give them defensive responsibility, they're not going to cook in the way that you want them to. Do you get what I'm trying to say? Then we're going to be just having the same conversations that we've been having for the longest while. Do you get what I'm trying to say? Florian Wirtz, the same kind of thing. It's just going to continuously keep happening when we look at these midfielders. And that's why I'm intrigued more than anything to know what people think in terms of these midfielders, because I'm like, what type of midfielder do you think Arne Slot would even want to go for? I don't think we're going to get any of these guys. Who, like, listen, I'll be very surprised if we do, and I'd love it if we got like a Florian Wirtz. Of course, he's one of the best players in the world, so I would love to have that. But I don't want a Florian Wirtz to come in and then you're going to tell man, yeah, but he's not covering in midfield. I know. I don't want him to. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't need him to. I don't need him to be covering as my midfielder. Get another player to come and do that. Tell someone to drop in if that's the case. Do you get what I'm trying to say? So Florian Wirtz would work well with Diogo Jota in sense of, if Jota's going to keep playing full 6 and false 5s and that, then you need someone still be able to play up front who's very good in and around the box. Then you get a Florian Wirtz type of player. If you're then going to say, no, I need my midfielders to, like, even the number 10, I need him to be able to come back and he has to be able to defend. Bro, now you're asking man to do all of these jobs just for the fan base to be like, oh, but he's this, he's that. He doesn't track. He doesn't. Yeah, I know. I don't want him to track. Maybe because Liverpool got Salah, who doesn't always really track. He tracks back, but doesn't always do that. His primary thing is to stay forward. Maybe if you got rid of that, then maybe you can shift that to another individual. But we all know that, you know, Arne Slot likes to play quite centrally. So again, I don't really know what that kind of looks like, for Liverpool, to be honest with you. But listen, there's a whole host of midfielders out there. Let me know. I've missed out so many other midfielders, but I was just looking at a few of the different types of profiles more than anything else when we're talking about, midfielders. Again, you've got the Edersons, at Atalanta. Everyone was bang on Ederson. All of a sudden, I ain't heard that brother's name in a very, very long time. You've got obviously Angelo Stiller. I will have a video on him coming out very, very shortly as well. If not out already, I don't know. I'll see when the video obviously comes out. But he's another midfielder. Again, you can play in that central midfield, DM. Very, very good midfielder, tidy in possession, someone who can get forward as well. Is that the type of midfielder that we're potentially looking for? Maybe to help rotate with like a McAllister. If you're gonna keep the roles the same, then yeah, I feel like he could easily come in and potentially do that. Reinders obviously at AC Milan, again another good midfielder, but with Liverpool, I just don't trust the role of, like, I feel like we've got an idea of the type of players that we want, right? But I always feel like it's difficult to then get that player to then come in here, because what usually happens at Liverpool, which we've seen really since Klopp was here anyway, is that we buy players and we don't even really use them in the way that they were always being used. So some players will not always, when I say not, like you got Gini Wijnaldum, for example, for Netherlands, Newcastle, PSV, he was literally a completely different player. Now, it worked for the balance of the team at the time, but you always saw this guy's had so much freedom when he was at the Netherlands. He even looked happy, when he was at the Netherlands, because it's like, yeah, man, I get to do what I would like. I get to play the way that I want to kind of play. I'm not saying it didn't work, people. Obviously, we won the Premier League and Champions League with him in there, but I am saying that when you then let him off the reins, Barcelona, do you know what I mean? All of a sudden, you start to see a completely different type of player. I look at other midfielders, as I mentioned before, like, the Enzo Fernandez, Caicedo, for me, balance. Quality midfield, by the way. Them, obviously, Lavia is obviously always injured kind of thing. If they were, so I don't know what that situation looks like now with Romeo Lavia in terms of what they're going to do with him, but that's balance to me. It provides balance. It provides what you need in a midfield. You've got, that's probably why I feel like they need that extra player. I don't know who that player is, but they need that extra individual. Get that person in. They've got one of the best midfields, in the league. And like I say, man, it's just one of those kind of things when we do talk about, the Liverpool midfield and, how they are as individuals, but then also how they are as a collective unit. I'm not saying it's shit or anything like that, but I think there are a lot of clubs who have better midfield units in Europe, and especially even in the Premier League, but just in a general sense, than Liverpool. Hence the reason why when we watch Liverpool, it's just gaps always appearing, and then we're complaining that this guy's not doing this and that guy's not doing that. Gravenberch has been stinky for how long? Szoboszlai has been stinky for how long? McAllister has been probably the best midfielder we've probably had this season in terms of consistency level, which is saying something, because I don't even think he's even all that. Like, it's just crazy. It's just crazy. So, yeah, I think when it comes to those kind of things, we just have to wait and see. we generally just have to wait and see as to how Liverpool want to play it in the summer. But listen, man, it's going to be so interesting to see what we do and how we do things. But as I say, man, let me know what you guys think, of course, in the comment section. How do you guys see things? What type of midfielders? Now, obviously, let me know the names, of course, but also let me know the types of midfielders that you feel that Liverpool need to have. And also, is it a case of maybe Arne Slot needs to change the way that Liverpool's midfield approach things tactically before we can then start worrying, you know, about, you know, players and things like that? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section, people, and I'll catch you there, man.